Hello internet, hello anyone who might watch this. I'm making this video mainly as like a video diary for myself, but also I think if I watched a video like this, it would really encourage me. So I'm gonna make this public and anyone who watches this might be able to benefit. But like I said, it's mainly a video diary for myself. But I just wanted to talk while I get ready about where I'm at with my personal journey recovering from being chronically depressed. So I first got diagnosed with depression when I was 17 in lower sixth form, and I was depressed from the age of, so that was 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, so maybe about 6 years of being depressed. And chronic depression is classified as being depressed for any amount of time longer than 6 months. And I've been on antidepressants for, it must be about 5 years now. And I am pursuing a career in performing arts and musical theatre and dance, which is what I've wanted to do since I was maybe about like 13, 14. And my journey has been a long one, and I wanted to talk about where I'm at right now and what it looks like trying to pursue a career in the performing arts, or any career, whilst you're struggling with that or recovering from that. I think at the moment I'm definitely in a period of recovery, and I'll just like kind of explain what that looks like. So I'm in my second year at a vocational performing arts university in the UK. I'm at Bird Conservatoire, and I'm in my second year, like I said. And at the moment, I'm still on my antidepressants, but I would say I'm not depressed. So on a daily basis, I'm okay. I'm fine. I feel happy. I feel motivated, but I'm not in a place where I can trust that motivation will stay. So for example, when I started this course, I was still definitely, I would say, depressed. Everything felt extremely difficult motivation wise. Getting up in the morning to go to college was like a huge thing, and attending lessons every day was really, really hard. So depression is basically a lack of the release of dopamine, and dopamine isn't just like a reward hormone chemical. It's, you know, your body doesn't release dopamine after you've done something. It releases dopamine while you're thinking about doing something. So for an example of something that's like a high dopamine thing, like eating chocolate, thinking about eating the chocolate releases dopamine so that you have motivation to get up and go get the chocolate and eat the chocolate. And then more dopamine is released, but that dopamine is the wanting more. So dopamine helps with everything, like when you wake up in the morning and you're lying in bed and you're thinking about the day ahead, you want to get up and do the activities for the day ahead because your body releases dopamine, and it's like the motivation drug basically. With depression, basically the release of dopamine is inhibited, or in like two different ways. Either it doesn't get released, there's a problem with it being released, or there's a problem where it gets released and then it gets sucked back up into whatever released it. I don't really have the technical terms, but that's why there's two types of antidepressants. There's the antidepressants that aid the release, and then there's antidepressants that prevent the reuptake. So I'm on the reuptake inhibitors, SSRIs, serotonin release reuptake inhibitors or something. I don't know why it's serotonin. I don't really know much about the chemistry of it, but that's my understanding. There are other ones that help with the release of it, which I was on at first. I didn't find that they did as much for me as the ones I'm on now do. So it's obviously like a very like personal thing. But the depression I have is also quite biological and hereditary. My dad has struggled with depression, but he is very well at the moment, so that's encouraging. But I want to talk about what it's been like. So I first came to Bird College in 2021, I think, and I was definitely still depressed. Looking back, when you're depressed, you don't realise you're depressed until you get better, and then you're like, oh, so that's what it feels like to be well. I definitely wasn't well. So yeah, everything, like I said, getting up in the morning, getting going was really, really difficult. And I used to have my parents call me every morning to make sure I got up out of bed and make sure I went to college. And that was like, I say college because it used to be called Bird College, but it's university. So I'm going to call it uni, I guess. But it's not uni, like it's lectures, it's like a full-time job. It's like 30 hours contact hours a week or something like that. So it's a big commitment. And if you're sort of struggling with motivation like that, it's a very difficult course to do. And obviously it's also extremely physical, and the physicality of it is something that I really struggle with, because personally, for my experience of depression, I have very, very strong physical symptoms. I feel like that's something that's not really talked about very often, and it's definitely something that I sort of, because it's not really talked about, I definitely gaslit myself that I was just unfit or didn't have much stamina or fitness or whatever. But that is not the case, because I know that, because when I've not been depressed, it's suddenly like, oh my gosh, that's what it feels like to do a jazz class. It's not like I just want to be anywhere other than here right now when I'm doing cardio. It's like actually okay, and it's like, yeah, it's hard, but like it's rewarding and enjoyable. Whereas when I've been depressed, trying to do a jazz class or a high intensity cardio class, I've literally been there like, and just thinking, I don't want to be here. I would rather be anywhere else right now. I hate this, I hate this, I hate this. Like, my physical symptoms are very much like intense lethargy in my limbs. So just feeling like my limbs just felt like they were like weighed down with lead. Like doing anything, moving my body just felt like 100 times harder. And I didn't realize that when I was in that. So if you feel like that, just know that like life is not supposed to be that hard, and when you come out of it, you're gonna be like so relieved, because the thought of doing your whole life with that, even because being depressed isn't like I feel sad all the time, it's these things, it's like that kind of stuff, it's the lack of motivation, and the thought of doing your whole life with that level of motivation and with for me that level of physical symptoms was like, felt like I can't do this, it's not worth it's not worth living like that. I would say I've never been like suicidal. I don't want to say I've never been suicidal in a serious way, because any feelings of not wanting to live or do your life is serious, but I've never got to the stage of seriously considering anything. But I have definitely felt like, if this is going to be my life, I don't think I can do it, and I don't want it, and that's quite a dark place to be in. I'm very happy to say I've not been in a place like that for a very long time, but that was how it was. That has been how it has been for periods, and definitely just thinking like, there's just so many thoughts of like, I can't do this career, this is who I am, and I just am not cut out for it. And I just want to say that's not true. There's no reason why you can't do it unless you're ill, right? So if you had a broken leg or had to undergo like chemotherapy, or you broke your back or had a slipped disc, you couldn't do it, right? That it's the same thing with depression, and it's not talked about like that enough, I don't think. It's not just like, it's not the same as other people's like, oh, I really don't want to get out of bed this morning, I'm really cozy, it's a cold day, it's early, this is like the 6th week of term and I'm having to get up at 6 o'clock again. It's not the same as that. It's to the point where it's like, I really want to go, but you don't have the chemical motivation in your brain to get you up and going and to do the things you need to do to get ready for the day and to go. So that's what it's like. Just to briefly sort of touch on that. I have been in a place where I've felt depressed every single day, and nothing you do makes you feel better. Like, I've been living with my family when I've been depressed, and they've got me out of bed, they've made me breakfast, they've got me to get out the house with them, I've just been very much like a child. Like when you're a little toddler and you don't have autonomy about what you do in your day, you just do what your parents do, right? And that has been like, I thank God that they've been there for me and been able to be there for me like that, because being like that without someone else externally imposing structure in your life when you're feeling like that is hell, because you just don't do anything. You don't get out of bed. You do anything you can for like quick dopamine hits all the time to distract your brain from, it's not so much from it's not like a feeling of sadness. The sadness and the pain come from, it's like the grief for the life that you're not living happening in real time. So it's like you don't get out of bed because you don't have the motivation to, and that makes you feel like the weight of the feeling of I'm sabotaging what I want to do. I'm sabotaging my life, especially when you're doing a course like I'm doing, which is like my dream, and so many people really want to be here, and I feel so lucky to be here, and I've worked so hard for this. The pain of the fact that you have what you want to be doing with your life to do every day, and you're not doing it because you can't do it, because you can't get out of bed, that pain is immense. That kind of like grief is immense, and the longer it goes on and the more times you feel like you fail, or that you don't get up, or you don't, reach just your goals of doing everyday life, the more that sort of grief builds up. And you don't, for me personally, I don't feel it in the moment. It like kind of, when I am feeling depressed and lacking in motivation to get up and I stop doing stuff, I'm very cut off from my emotions. So I will find any sort of dopamine hit, dopamine release to distract me from feeling that, and from getting in touch with my emotions. So I will watch things, I will binge TV shows, I will binge eat like high sugar, high fat foods. I will do anything really that is like instant dopamine hit. And then the sort of like pain and the grief of the fact that you're not doing what you want to be doing and you're letting yourself down, that sort of gets all bottled up. And then eventually, after a period of like bed rotting in this sort of cycle, after a period of that, all those emotions and those feelings will build up, and I'll have like a massive cry, a massive like, but like not just like a cry, like sobbing in anguish, like inconsolable panic attack, like friends and family members don't know what to do with you, because they're like, this is just like, how, I don't know how to help her, and no one can help you. I think especially when is more of a biological thing, it gets to a point where it's like you just need that dopamine in your brain, and you don't have it. And no matter how much CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy, which is like a form of therapy for depression, or psychotherapy, or self-help books, or mindfulness, no matter how much of that you throw at it, it's just not going to even touch it. I will say, having said that, all of those things are excellent tools, but there is like a baseline that you have to be at of wellness to be able to use them. There's been times when I've thrown self-help books across the room because I've been like, this ain't gonna touch it. And I think it's really difficult, because having said that, when you are on that, above that sort of baseline, those things can be extremely helpful and great, and it sort of like builds up your toolkit of things that you have to deal with depression when you are sort of above that baseline. But when you're below that baseline, sometimes you just have to sleep it off. You just have to not be conscious and wait for your mood to lift, and that's a real thing that I think not a lot of people really understand. Another thing is, when I am in one of those periods, like they vary. Sometimes I'm just catatonic in my bed watching things, just something I do as well is I become very nocturnal, and I think that's because if I'm sleeping in the day is when people expect things of you. So if I'm sleeping in the day, I'm avoiding all expectations, and then if I'm awake all night, no one's expecting anything of you at night time. So if you're up all night, you can just do what you want, basically, and that's just eat crap food, play Minecraft, watch TV, whatever. So that's sort of like, well, I would say that's not the worst it gets. That's like the worst it gets where it's still manageable by using these kind of crutches. The worst it gets is like, dear God, someone just give me some tranquilizers and knock me out, because I can't be conscious in this unbearable sort of like unbearable existence right now. I wouldn't say I've been like that too many times, but when I have, I've managed just to go to sleep. That is the worst. And then it varies from that being the worst to, say, like, you are going about your day because maybe you're at home and your parents are like, come on, let's go, we're going on a walk, and you're doing stuff because someone is externally imposing structure in your life, and that's a really good thing, but you are not okay. You know that you wouldn't have the motivation to do anything yourself if it wasn't for someone forcing that on you. And when you're in that state, for me personally, I completely disconnect from my feelings, because if I am connected with my feelings, the first thing that's going to come crashing in like a tsunami wave is going to be the grief and the anguish and the pain of the fact that it feels like I'm holding myself back, but it's really important to word it that I am being held back by my illness. And I'm sure it's similar to, I'm sure people with other disabilities experience that sort of deep pain and anguish and grief at like the fact that you can't live your life. And it's really difficult because people think, well, you're able-bodied, you're fine, nothing is visibly wrong with you, I hung out with you yesterday and you seemed really fine. But the truth is, when that state of mind hits, when you are depressed, it's not something you have control over. It's not something you can just kick with atomic habits or building up good habits or building up good sleep or eating well. It's not. And I think that is a lot of sort of attitudes around depression are very damaging because people don't understand it, which is why I'm going to make this video public, because if anyone watches it who doesn't understand or who knows someone who is struggling with depression, it's really, really damaging when people don't understand that you just can't, you can't do it. Even though you physically have the muscles and the limbs to get out of bed, like, you can't, unless somebody forces you to. And even then, I've had times when I've been in bed and I've had a parent sat there talking to me saying, come on, you can do it, I know you can, get out of bed. They've tried, ripping the blanket off me, shouting at me, being kind with me, being gentle with me. I don't blame them for anything that they've tried, because if that was my child, I would also be, tearing my hair out, trying everything I can. And there's been times when I've been stood and I've been thinking, I can't take a step forward right now. I can't move from this spot. And it's not because I physically can't. I think it's because my reflection on it, I think, is more because it's like a physical, you need to like physically embody what's going on in your mind, and it feels like you almost can't betray how hard it is by physically moving, because it's like a cry for help, like people need to understand how bad it is. And another thing is, when you feel that low, a lot of the time you have for me, a lot of the time I had really deep-rooted beliefs of, I'm not worth it, I'm not lovable, I'm not good enough, I'm a failure, I'm all these things. I don't really want to say a lot of it out loud, because I feel like saying stuff out loud has power. And I, have worked hard to get to a point where I believe that I am worth it, and I am lovable, and I am amazing, and I am loved. and I love myself, and I'm, you know, all that good stuff. But when you so deeply, deeply, deeply believe the opposite, you don't believe that you deserve to do anything positive to aid your recovery. You almost feel like, I think especially for me, because have like a very perfectionist sort of mentality naturally, I'm like, well, if I can't do it to 100% standard, I'm not doing it at all. I can't do it at all. I don't deserve to sort of do it half-heartedly, if that makes sense. I feel like there's so much to dive into and explain. I'm just trying to give an overview. I haven't even sort of got started with where I'm at the moment, but that is kind of where I've been on and off for the past sort of 7 years, I would say. So I'm 24 now. I'm going to turn 25 this year, and I'm in my second year. I think I said that. So I first came to Bird in 2021, where I started the course, and I was still definitely depressed. I deferred the course after 1 term, and then I went back home and lived with my parents for another year, and then I went back next September, did the first term again, deferred again, and then the next year, 2023, I was about to go back again, and I didn't feel ready because I was still depressed. So I didn't even start the September of 2023, I just deferred. And then came in 2024. Yes, that's right, I came in 2024, and I haven't deferred since I came to first year in 2024. So I did my first year, 2024, finished my first year, had a massive breakthrough in therapy that I was having through the NHS that really helped me to complete first year and start second year. Shout out to my amazing NHS therapist, who was incredibly helpful in helping me see what was preventing me from progressing. I'll just use this time to talk about that, because I think that was another thing I learned. I think when you have struggled with depression, there are so many like side effects of it. So when I deferred the course, it wasn't always just because I wasn't well enough mentally. Like, for example, the first time was because I contracted glandular fever, and I was ill, and I don't know if anyone's had glandular fever, but it really affects your energy levels, and I just couldn't. It's such a physically demanding course, and I wanted to be able to put my all into the course, and I couldn't, basically. And that probably was a combination of glandular fever and still being depressed. So that combination was the first time. Then the second time, it was because the second time was just because I was depressed, I think. I don't think there was a physical reason. I mean, I have had injuries that I've been working through over the last sort of handful of years, but maybe that played a part. I can't even remember. And then the third time was a separate reason. There was a personal crisis within my family that meant that my mental health was shaken, and I just wasn't in a place where I could complete the course, attend the course like I wanted to. And then, so because of all that, I had a symptom of deferring that many times have built up in me a like unconscious sort of core belief that I can't complete this course, I can't do this course, I'm not like everyone else, I'm not good enough to do it, like I'm not well enough to do it, I should say, mentally. And that was a very limiting belief that I had, in that I think every reason why I deferred was definitely very true and very present and a very real reason to defer. However, I also think that those things happened maybe because they were kind of like subconscious self-fulfilling prophecies. So I mean, obviously, like, some stuff is down to you have no say in it, but there was definitely a lot of self-sabotage that went on. And if I hadn't been depressed, I don't think I would have had to defer maybe any of those times for those reasons. But because I was also struggling with my mental health, it meant that I didn't have the facilities to deal with those things when they came up. So that's why I do categorize it as I was not well enough. And I do say that I deferred because of my mental health. So then when I was well in the middle of my first year, I had a difficult time around Christmas time, because that's when I had always deferred before. I access some therapy through the NHS. My big question was like, I don't feel depressed anymore. I don't lack the motivation. I'm actually doing really well. So why then am I sabotaging and not getting out of bed and not going to classes? And we worked through that, and my therapist taught me about cognitive dissonance and fear of success, which is something I didn't understand. And she explained that basically cognitive dissonance is when if you have like a core belief about yourself, namely that I cannot pass first year, for example, and you are actively proving that belief wrong by going to college and passing first year, your brain freaks out because it doesn't like it when your core beliefs don't match what's happening in reality, which is the cognitive dissonance. So even though you're proving yourself wrong, you would think by proving myself wrong, by succeeding in first year, surely my core belief should change. But it's not as simple as that. Sometimes instead of your core belief changing, because that's such an ingrained belief, sometimes you start changing your actions. It's kind of against your will, without knowing why you're doing it. You will find sort of reasons to not go, or you'll be ill and you'll be like, oh, I am ill, you know. And it's not like making excuses. It's not that. It's that your body doesn't understand. Your mind doesn't understand. It's like, well, we're succeeding, but that's not true. That's not something we can do. So we need to stop doing that. If that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense, but that was something that was like a concept I hadn't really grasped or come across or understood before, but that was definitely something that was happening very powerfully for me. And I mean, how do you then change that so that you can succeed is a question that I haven't been able to answer. But I will say, for me, just being aware that that was the case was enough to sort of like be kind of twigging that and realizing that was enough for me to be able to then kind of go away and subconsciously like sort of think about it, marinate it over in my subconscious. And that was enough to enable me to change that belief that I can pass first year. So yeah, so maybe just kind of realizing that that's going on is enough to change it, if that makes sense. So then I got to second year, which is where I am now. And it was great. I had a really good time. I was like, this is crazy. I feel so different. I feel like for the last 3 or 4 years, I've been doing the same thing. Because that's sort of also the fear of success, is like, I was for a long time in a place that was very familiar to me. Even though I was like going to bed, deferring, living at home, going to bed, deferring, living at home. Even though like where I was living, what I was doing was changing, I was in the same place in that it was like a cycle. I was like never got past that first term of first year, right? And that was very comfortable. So something your brain also does, and this is sort of fear of success, is like, so the fear of failure is like not doing something or preventing yourself from succeeding at something because you don't know that you can succeed, and trying and failing is scarier than not trying at all. So fear of success is similar but a bit different. And correct me if I'm wrong, this is just my understanding from the therapy I've had. Fear of success is where you've been in the same place for so long that you're actually like, so if I do succeed now, I don't know what that's going to look and feel like if I get past this hurdle I've been trying to get past for the last 3 years. I don't know how that's going to be. And actually, something unknown is less preferable than something familiar, even if the something unknown is probably going to be a good thing and the familiar thing is a painful thing. So your brain will choose something kind of painful and familiar over something unfamiliar and better, if that makes sense. So I think that was definitely going on as well. And once we sort of talked about this, like I said, it was just sort of learning about these phenomenons, if you like, this way that our brains work. Learning about that was enough for my subconscious to digest that, and it was enough for me to be able to then overcome that, which is amazing, because I don't have the answer to how do you overcome fear of success and how do you overcome cognitive dissonance. I don't have the answer to that. I would definitely say therapy is an extremely good place to start. But like I said before, if I hadn't been above that sort of baseline of wellness, I wouldn't have been able to engage with that therapy. So, you know, the fact that I was able to have therapy and even talk about that and stuff was like a sign that I was a lot better than I had been. I wasn't actively depressed. I was in sort of dealing with the leftover side effects of the depression. We're not actively in the war, but we have a lot to rebuild. So that was very incredible. And for the first time in a lot of years, I was like, oh my goodness, this feels so weird. I'm like in a new chapter, like I'm actively moving forward in my life. And it was very odd at the start. I just felt like I'm in such a bizarre limbo. Like it's so weird. Like I'm in new territory almost, which is an amazing feeling. And I guess people who are well don't realize how cool and exciting that feeling is. To be like constantly moving forward, it's like a very exciting thing. Oh my goodness, my phone died and I didn't get to press stop recording before it died. And then I just powered it on and I was so scared that I lost all of that video. And I don't think I would have had it in me to film it again. But anyway, where was I? So I would say where I'm at the moment. At the moment, I'm very much in a recovery period from depression. And I think I have been for the last 2 years. So I don't feel actively depressed every day. I go through long periods of feeling very, very well. And me when I'm well, I feel like is a completely different person to when I'm depressed. And anyone who knows me will attest to that, I think. It's quite like, it's very jarring and quite striking, the duality of a person who struggles with depression. And if you know someone, you know that that person well is like a completely different person. And I think something I struggled with for a long time is struggling to accept, not wanting to accept depression as a part of me. And I'm still sort of like making my mind up about this. I think I don't accept it as a part of me. I don't think it is a part of me. I don't think that defines who I am, because the person I am when I'm well is so dramatically different to the person I am when I'm depressed. I don't feel like myself when I'm depressed. When I'm well, I'm funny, I'm extroverted, I'm witty, I'm creative, you know, and I don't think I am that person with the caveat of sometimes I'm depressed. I don't think that has to be part of your identity. I think I do have hope of getting to a place in my future where I don't have any relapses. So at the moment, I'm in a place where I'm well most of the time, but then every so often I sort of have a little relapse into that sort of lacking the dopamine, lacking the motivation, and everything becomes harder again. I'm struggling to sort of like, depending on the severity of it, I'll struggle to like go for a food shop, do my meals, like get up in the morning. I might miss a few classes. If it gets really bad, I might like stay in bed and rot for like, you know, 3 days a week, whatever. But that doesn't happen very often. And actually it did happen recently being maybe 3 weeks ago. That happened really badly for me. But that was the first time it had happened in almost a year. So naturally it really freaked me out. And I was like, oh my goodness, I'm never ever gonna be free from this. I'm gonna be living my life constantly, no matter how well I feel, I'm gonna constantly be living in the fear of something is gonna send me down into a depression again. And I'm just gonna have no control over it. That's a massive thing with depression, the feeling of being completely out of control. And you have no control over when it happens. I'm therefore not going to be able to commit to any kind of job. I'm 24 and I don't have a job. I have had jobs for short periods of time, but I'm relying on my parents, and my parents, I will say, are incredible. And I think I mentioned my dad has struggled with depression for a lot of his life, so he knows what it's like. And my parents have said, Amy, we know that if you got a job, you could probably go for 6 months being absolutely fine, but then you might crash and you might not be able to have it. You might not be able to commit to it. And I just don't feel like I can commit to anything. So that's obviously a really scary place to be in. And that's why I reject saying depression is part of my personality, because having spoken to my dad about this, he experienced a long period of being depressed and then he's been recovering ever since. And he said now he said there was a number of years where he felt like I feel now, where he felt like I feel well, but I don't know if anything's going to send me back into an episode, a depressive episode, if you like. But he says recently, in the last sort of 10 years, he's known that whatever happens is not gonna cause him to go into a proper depressive episode again. So that's really encouraging, and I do believe that I will get to that place. Obviously, being depressed for 5 years is like a long time to be depressed for, and the longer you are depressed, the longer your recovery period is going to be. Something incredible that gave me so much hope that my incredible psychiatrist told me, which is the doctor that manages your drugs. There was a point where I had felt well for about 6 months, and I'd been like, I don't need these drugs anymore, I'm fine. So I took myself off the drugs without telling anyone. I just stopped taking them, which is a very, very normal thing, and actually a good sign, because it's like, well, you have a desire not to be depressed anymore, which is very, very good, and it is a sign of getting better. However, then I did have like a relapse into depression, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm never gonna get better. Like, why did I even think I could be off the drugs? I'm gonna be on these drugs for the rest of my life. And he gave me a really, 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 really encouraging statistic, which is just not like very well talked about. He said, this is very, very normal, but if you've been depressed for, I think he said, if you've been on the antidepressants and been depressed for like, I think it's like 1 to 2. So if you're depressed for 1 year, you need to be well, like properly feel well on the antidepressants for another 2 years after that. Because he said, if you come off before that time period of recovery is over, there's a 50% chance that you're going to relapse into depression. And that was so reassuring to me. I was like, oh, so like, yeah, that's fine. I just need to be well on the drugs for like double the time that I've been unwell on the drugs, if that makes sense. So like for me, taking antidepressants is not a big thing. I'm like, look, if I need to be on these for the rest of my life, like that's fine. There's a lot of stigma around taking antidepressants. For me personally, I don't really get any side effects. The ones I'm on are quite strong. The only annoying thing is if I'm not organised with getting my prescriptions renewed and picking them up and stuff, with like going on holidays, or if I, miss a day, then I do get like quite annoying withdrawals where, if I miss a day, that day that I haven't had them, I'll start getting quite like, kind of feels like you're really drunk. Like, when you're really drunk and you sort of like move and it feels like your sort of vision like catches up like a bit late, like very swooshy. That and like a bit of nausea and dizziness, it's not nice. So that's the only annoying thing, but other than that, like, keep me on the drugs, I'm fine with that. So yeah, at the moment, like I said, I'm definitely in a recovery period, and that period, there's like, I think the overall trend is that my sort of relapses are much fewer and further between, which is encouraging, but it's still really hard because I just feel like at the moment, I've deferred this course 3 times. I've had double, if I graduate this course next year, I will have done it in a 3-year course in 6 years. And I still just don't feel like I have enough time. Like, I have such an imposter syndrome fear that I'm like, I can't go to a casting director, to an audition and be like, yes, hire me. Not only am I talented and professional, I'm reliable. I can do the job. Because I don't know that I can. Yeah, I don't know that I can. And that is, like, it's really scary and difficult. And it's how I've been feeling for a long time. I just feel like with friendships, I don't want anyone to rely on me as a friend, because I'm like, I don't know if I can be there for you. And it's like the whiplash of like, I will be there, I'll be a great friend for a long time. And then if I have a depressive episode again, I just drop off the face of the earth. I don't reply to anybody. I have an amazing boyfriend who has been with me for the last 4 years. So he's been with me through a lot of this journey. And when I do sort of go back into a depressive sort of episode, he is amazing. I give him permission, and he logs into all of my social media accounts and like replies to my friends and explains the situation, and like emails college and even texts my parents as well, because usually it's my parents that are doing this for me, or previously it's been my parents that do this for me, but since I've been living away from home. They live in Sheffield. I'm in London. He's been amazing, I've had some really, really great friends in the last 7 years of my life, some of whom I'm not, some of whom we went our separate ways, but that's fine. But I've had some incredible friends who have been like, even though they haven't personally necessarily struggled with any mental health difficulties, they have understood that when I'm like that, I'm like that, and it's not something I can control. But it is like a really scary feeling of like, people aren't going to think I'm a reliable friend, because I'm not reliable. My cousin recently asked me to be her bridesmaid, and I'm so flattered and grateful and excited, but I'm just nervous, I'm like, it's the not being able to trust yourself, I think, is the most heartbreaking thing, and the most sort of scary thing is like, you can't trust yourself to be the person you want to be and be who you are, But I think the encouraging thing is, this is a recovery period, and this isn't life well. I don't think I've experienced life as an adult being well yet. And that for me is encouraging. I always found it encouraging when my psychiatrist, who is retired now, but he was amazing, every time I'd have an appointment with him, he was just so validating of how I'd been, and just, it's the worst thing when people are like, oh, you're fine, come on, we'll go out, you'll be fine. Like, and every time I saw him, he'd be like, oh no, you're really not well. You're not well. Even though you might feel well, you're not. Like, if you can't trust yourself that you're going to be yourself every day, you're not well. You might be recovering, so you feel well most of the time. But something one of my, I don't even know who it was, some counsellor, talked to me about was like, I can't remember what it was called, but it was like your sort of like range of ability to deal with things. So most people's range is like this. It's kind of your resilience, right? So most people's range is like this, and like within this range, your emotions go up and down. You might have like a really good day, you might have a really bad day. Something might be really like great, something might be like not so great, you might be a bit mid, whatever. You have this range. But when you're depressed, or when you're recovering from depression, your range is a lot smaller. So little things like, I don't know, you're trying to get a prescription, and then the pharmacy closes, and then you haven't got your medication, and then you have something due the next day. So little things that some people would be like, this is like right down at the bottom of my range, but it's not out of their range of coping with it. They can still cope with it. But for you, because your range is so much smaller, that is going to dip below the line so much quicker, and you get depressed because you don't have the ability to deal with it. You don't have the sort of, you're not firing on all cylinders. So I think, yeah, my range sort of varies, but it's definitely not a healthy person's range yet. And having talked about this, having said all this, I will say I think a lot of people are not mentally healthy. I think most people are not fully thriving mentally, but that doesn't mean like you shouldn't aspire to be. I think people are like, oh, well, everyone's depressed. It's like, okay, maybe a lot of people have undiagnosed depression. That doesn't mean we shouldn't thrive for everybody to get the help they need, and for everybody to be, people might be like, well, even people that are not diagnosed with any mental health illness are not thriving in the way that you're describing. It's like, okay, yeah, and that's not good. I want everyone to be thriving, and definitely the society and the world we live in, with how addictive and dopamine releasing our phones are, and how we live so disconnected from nature and our bodies, is very, I think, not conducive to a healthy body and mind. So there's a lot of factors, obviously, but this is just like, obviously I'm talking about my experience. So yeah, I'm gonna be going into third year, and I am hella scared, because I'm like, how can I stand up there and talk to the principal of my school and be like, hey, so this is my strengths, I can sing, I can dance, but I'm gonna be here tomorrow because I might be in my bed. Like, that's scary. That's really scary. And something you don't realize is like, when I'm depressed, when I'm in a depression, this is getting so clumpy, I don't know what to do, I don't have a separator. When I'm in a depression, I really struggle to have perspective that this is not going to be forever. And equally, when I'm not depressed, I just completely forget what it's like. I know I've just spoken about what it's like, but it's quite like hard to tap back into what it really feels like. And I know if I was depressed and I saw this video on the internet and I watched it, I would just be like, it would just not even permeate. It wouldn't touch it. Like, it wouldn't give me any hope, because when you are depressed, nothing gives you hope. Nothing does. And you just think, oh, it's bleak. It's just bleak. It is just bleak. I've said this before. I say this to everyone. I really would not wish depression on my worst enemy. I really, hand on heart, I would never wish my worst enemy even to experience it. It's awful. It is really awful. So I understand that all of this I'm saying might not even, I know that I wouldn't even be able to watch a video like this if I was depressed right now, is what I'm saying. So if you know somebody who is depressed and they have opened up about it, firstly, that's like a huge thing, because our society is like not accepting of depression as what it is really. And I think a lot of that's been really hard for myself, because I don't want this to be a pity party, because I definitely believe that you can get in a victim mindset and you can want to stay a victim for the rest of your life, and I don't want that. I think it's really hard to kind of keep yourself accountable to wanting to get better. But even that, like, don't beat yourself up about it, because like we just talked about, fear of success, cognitive dissonance. I genuinely believe everybody has the desire to grow emotionally, grow mentally, and become the best version of themselves. I genuinely believe that we all innately have a deep need to give and receive love and to connect with other people empathically. And I don't believe anybody is a villain if you truly know their heart. And I don't think a lot of people truly know their heart. And I think a lot of people that come across as villains, they might even be lying to themselves. There are so many reasons why we do things and why we come across the way we do. And the older I get, the more empathy I have for everyone, really. I really don't think I've met anyone yet that I can't say that I might not agree with them, but I don't think I've met anyone yet that I don't have empathy for as a fellow human being. It's a nice place to be in. It's a nice place to live in. I'm just going to do my lips. Anyway, that is my makeup done. Put some hydration in my hair. This is the debut of the new micro fringe. So yeah, that's going to be the end of this video. No one sees it, like I said. It's okay. It's just a little video diary for myself. But, you know, it'd be really cool if this could help even one person. Because I know that, like, even me a year ago or 2 years ago or 3 years ago, seeing a video like this on YouTube would be, like, insanely encouraging. And, yeah. I am going to go charity shopping with my housemate now. So, big love to everyone. And I hope you enjoyed this video and are having a blessed day. And remember, everyone is a human being with a soul that is capable of love. Maybe it is buried deep within a lot of layers of psychological self-defense, trauma, all that, but at the end of the day, they are just like you. We're all just like each other. I think that's really beautiful. Anyway, love and peace out. Bye. Come in.
Oh, hey.
Oh, how did it go?
Oh, you doing a vlog?
I am, yeah.
Hi, vlog. Just had my scene with Shiv. Sorry, that's why we had to pause the vlog.
Yeah.
Is this for TikTok?
No.
For YouTube?
Yeah. It's not really a vlog.
Oh.
It was like a sit down.
Get ready with me.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No. It's fine. It's fine.
Right, okay.
I'll put you in the credits.
Yeah, I'll be downstairs ready.
Okay, I'll just do my lipstick.